Hi everyone, thanks for being here today as part of the MCM Guitar Festival to welcome Stu Mackenzie and Joey Walker from King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It's a real treat to have you guys here and to talk to us about guitar, about studying, and about some crazy microtonal things as well, hopefully.
Don't know about studying.
Thanks for having us. Pleasure. So I thought, given that our whole weekend and the session today is really focused around the guitar as an instrument, as I was just saying, to me, the guitar is a portal to a whole world of music, and it's a way of discovering music more broadly. What were your early beginnings with the guitar, and what attracted you to the instrument in the first place?
Okay.
You go.
I feel like my initial attraction to like playing was probably drumming. Like when I was like really young, that's what I wanted to do. Didn't have a drum kit, but my parents, my dad was actually here today, so I want to obviously Tony Walker wherever you are. But yeah, then just kind of, I think they just got me a ukulele and I used to bash away on that. Then just got like a $1 acoustic guitar from like a garage sale somewhere when we were living in Alice Springs. And then I just kind of like, I probably didn't get lessons until I was like, you know, in year 7 or so. But I feel like having that guitar in my hand from a really young age just had like, already had a nice feel. Just, it felt kind of nice or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
I feel like I have a weirdly similar story, and maybe that's why we're musical blood brothers. But I started with drums first too, which is what I was attracted to, and did drum lessons. Also never had a drum kit. I used to play the practice pads. But I think I was attracted to drums because they're loud and obnoxious, and like that's what, you know, 12-year-olds are into, or at least I was. But my dad played guitar, and so there was always guitars in the house, left-handed though, and he played kind of like acoustic and chill music, which I thought was boring. I like it now actually, but I thought it was boring. So I thought guitar was stupid and boring. So I think it wasn't until I got into AC/DC where I was like, oh, guitar's cool. Okay. So then it was kind of like the turning point, and I was like, Dad, can I please play guitar? So it's, I think that would have been about 14, 15. Yeah.
I feel like it's always that early, just like, you know, would have been like Rage Against the Machine, or like definitely Akka Dakka, and obviously The Biscuit.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. And then what about the notion of sort of going on and studying music after school? Was that something that was a natural progression for you guys, or?
For me, I mean, yeah, I studied guitar or had lessons all through high school, and then I did VCE performance in guitar. But then, I mean, I'd kind of also coincided, I was getting really into like producing like dance music as well, so and I wasn't in a band yet, so I was kind of just hitting my computer and, you know, Ableton, etc. But then afterwards, I don't think I ever considered like studying at like in a tertiary level. I was like doing an arts degree out at La Trobe, and then I just kind of spent all my time just like playing music, and I think I was a bit disenfranchised. And then my sister was coming to the RMIT open day, and I just kind of came because I had nothing to do, and then went to the RMIT music industry program, which just by chance, because it was on, and then just kind of was like, I'm going to have a crack. And then that's how we met. And it was just, quite fortuitous. Like I felt like it was like, I think it makes sense, because I was probably never going to do anything else. I was always going to do music at some point, but yeah, it kind of took me by surprise.
It's very hard to make decisions when you're that age, right? Like big life age decisions. I mean, I was at least like that. I think I was honestly kind of frightened of studying music or pursuing it as like a serious thing, because every single person in my life said that you can't make a living out of that, and why are you doing that, you idiot, sort of thing. So, but I loved it, and I didn't really want to do anything else. So I guess my logic was, I'm going to go to uni, do this music industry course, because, you know, I'm kind of into this DIY approach, sort of interested in learning how to do all the things, because I guess you have to. I mean, I don't know, that was at least what people told me, that you have to. And I'm going to do it for 5 years, give it a good crack, and then maybe do something a bit more dependable after after that, I don't know if it doesn't work out. And I'm still doing it, so that's cool. Hopefully it lasts for a while. I mean, I don't really want to get a job.
Yeah, fantastic. So that sort of theme of the people you meet when you're studying being so important, and the sort of networks, meeting like-minded people, and I guess also giving yourself the time to develop and learn, immerse yourself in music or whatever course it is. I think it's so important, even though the messaging from society is often, where's the job in this, and where is this going to lead? But I think music has so many different pathways, possibilities, skills that we can learn. The possibilities are definitely broad. So from there, initially, was the guitar always the foundation of the early bands that you played in, or was it just one of many sort of instruments you worked with?
Yeah, I mean, I've never played anything other than guitar in a band.
You were making like dubstep when we were,
when
we were making sort of like indie rock.
Yeah, I just like early Gizzard days. I'd like a gig that I would be playing in like Sydney would coincide with the Gizzard show, like the first kind of ever Gizzard shows, and we just like, I remember just like playing the show and then taking you boys to like some like rank club where we were playing. It was just like, it was kind of like, yeah, literally another world for all you.
Yeah, it was taking the hippies to the club.
Yeah, it was cool. Shake it up. But yeah, guitar.
And in the sort of, we have classical guitar, jazz guitar, world music styles here, and when you have multiple guitars together, there's always this issue of how do you arrange them? How do you put them together so that they complement each other, stay out of each other's way? How have you sort of approached that over the years, the combination of three or more guitars?
I mean, we're still definitely working on it. And, being a band with three guitarists, and also, harmonica in the same space, and keyboards through amps, and, distorted guitars, and all this stuff in the middle. And a lot of these things kind of fight with each other. But I think we've been getting a lot better at kind of working that out. And it's been through, honestly, just brute force of just hours just doing it and like listening to each other and trying to let everyone kind of be the star at the same time. Be one organism. That's sort of been what Gizzard's kind of been about as much as we can.
I also feel like Cookie, the other guitarist in Gizzard, he has like a quite vastly different style of playing and approach to guitar than Stu and I. I feel like Stu and I are actually very similar in how we play. Like I feel like just decisions so often will be like just jamming or whatever on stage, and like we'll at some point like in any point of the song we'll just play the exact same improvised thing, or like something will just happen and we just start to finish just like just laugh. Yeah. I think like because we're by no means shredders, like I think it's like our approach is, or like I like to think of it like we kind of head to like focus more on rhythm in how we play, even if it's in a lead kind of sense. Like I think that's the kind of, that's playing to our ability, and I think it's kind of like cool to investigate that. I think that's what we identified.
So the shredding sort of soloist thing is not actually something you're aspiring to. It really is about this group of guitarists playing together, and the one organism thing is a great sort of image.
I think if anything, we actually actively really didn't want to be that, especially for most of Gizzard's history, there's been no guitar solos, even though we have three guitarists. And I think in the last few years, we've been happy to go there, but more out of a place of improvisation, I think. And that's just, become such a big part of the show, and the reason that we do it, or we're motivated to do it, is because we don't know what's happening on stage, and that's like the most, heart-pumping thing that you can do, is to freak yourself out on stage. So I think we've been happy to go there in that way, but it's still always been important to play as one. It sounds corny to say that, but I don't know, it's a real thing. You just kind of got to pretend you're one organism.
And also, given the interest in AC/DC and formative styles, how do you feel about the riff that guitar riff as something that you can base a song on? Is that something that's still an attractive idea?
100% agree. I feel like me and you, I mean, it's album like dependent on, you know, like what the context of it, but like if it's going to be a guitar heavy album, I think it's just like the eternal search for the riff. It's like what Stu and I kind of like do, and it's like it can be like a 1 bar vamp or whatever it is, but if it's worthy, you can easily, and we like able to just kind of build a song or a world around it, like out of something that's.
And we've made records that have been more like that than others. Some are very much like that, and some would be maybe hard to find, like a riff out of. But yeah, time and place. But when the riff hits, it's real.
Well, there's riffs and there's riffs too. I mean, there are short riffs, but then there are longer ones that can almost become the melody of the song, or can define the song in different ways, I guess. But it seems to me that the riff is tied to the guitar in a lot of ways as an instrument.
I probably think you're right.
Thanks. Well, it's at least something that the guitar brought into popular music, and I'm sure other instruments. Yeah, I mean, looking at these microtonal guitar necks here, I guess before we dive into that, reminded of the many different genres that you've played and sort of, I don't want to use the word crossover, it's combined, fused your style with, and I think it's amazing how whatever style you're working with folk, blues, electronica, that remains a distinctive sound of King Gizzard. Is there a genre that you're looking to work in next? I'm thinking of classical music.
That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be a good album from us.
No, I think that would be a bad Gizzard one. Well, I mean, we would need to practice a lot more. I think maybe that would be a start.
Practice.
I think King Gizzard with the MSO would be a good show.
That would be sick.
That would be fun. Yeah, we'd have to get someone else to do the notey, scory paper thing that you do.
Get some of you guys to come and do it.
And so this interest in experimentation and new fields sometimes has a music theory underpinning, as in the case with the microtonal guitars, or recent album where you're using modes as the basis of songs, or I think Butterfly 3000 where everything's in a major key, just having some sort of extra or music theory type focus seems to be something that's of interest to you guys. Is that, are you often looking for those types of prompts, or?
I think so, yeah. Like, it maybe not necessarily as binary as like music theory being that, but it's more like a concept, and if it's like, something microtonal or modal or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as soon as you say music theory, it kind of makes it feel dry, but a lot of that stuff, especially, talking about modes and things like that, that's so not dry to me. It's so like emotional and so like heavy and weighty and like beautiful and stuff. And I think, as soon as you think about it as being this like theorized thing, it's like your brain just shuts off and your eyes glaze over. But I don't, important to mention, we didn't study music. We did music industry, which was like kind of an arts degree. So we don't know what we're doing, like at all. Really. So we kind of approach it from like a different lens, I think. We approach it from like a fan lens. Like, we're just nerds. We just love this shit. They just have a lot of fun doing it with each other.
Even like you referring to like the microtonal kind of thing as like theory based, it's like, to me, I'm like, I never think about it like that, because, I feel like maybe it's because I just don't, I'm not the best at theory. Like, I play a lot of things that I don't know how or why, like, or what is happening, you know what I mean? So yeah, maybe that's kind of what Stu was saying. It's just like, it's kind of like, it's cool to just try and tackle stuff and not kind of think too deeply, but if it like kind of just resonates and you're having a good time and it's deep theory like based stuff, then that's it,
The theory stuff is awesome when it leads to like a place of creativity, in my opinion. And like, if you can learn about something and then that sparks your imagination. Imagine if you, for instance, imagine if you tried it this way, or imagine if you use this particular theory item over this sound or on this instrument or something. That's when that stuff is like so powerful and valuable.
And that inquisitiveness about music and just different things you can do, I guess, is really probably the driving force rather than theory.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I guess for me, the way I got into music was through the Microtonal albums, and my friend Mackenzie from Altamira Guitars, who's here and has was responsible for getting these instruments made, turned me on to the 3 albums that you made, and I'm interested to know, I guess, how it came about, the guitars, the placement of frets and the tuning. What was the impetus?
Yeah, I suppose the initial... Firstly, we didn't think we were going to make 3 albums. We didn't realise we were going to make albums at all. It really just was a inquisitive little search thread, I suppose. But we were listening to a lot of kind of 70s Turkish, like psychedelic music. And in particular, Erkan Koray, who used to play electric bağlama. Bağlama is a Turkish stringed instrument. It's a little bit like a guitar, but it's got movable frets, really skinny neck. Amazing sound, but he played an electric one, and he kind of made it sound like an electric guitar. He played electric guitar too, but there was this sound in the music that was so beautiful and different and exotic, and it took a while to figure out that the reason it sounded the way it did was because the frets are in different places.
Like scary, like I mean, like we would say it sounded scary, like this kind of there was this like kind of unquantifiable like thing there that was just like made you kind of just like like in a real good way. I think it was just
So I was on vacay in Istanbul with my wife, now my wife, and I brought home a bağlama, and so I was just messing around with it. It was just for fun. We were making an album. It was just like, this is a cool thing. And coincidentally, around this time, I was approached by a guy, Zach Eccles, who is a legend and now friend, and he works for Maiden, the guitar company. He said, "I'm good, you guys the guitar. I really like King Gizzard." And I was like, "Well, that's amazing. Someone to build this guitar. What are we gonna do?" And I thought, you know what? I'm kind of like interested in this microtonal thing at the moment. And he was like, "Cool, okay, we'll build a microtonal guitar." And so, that kind of led to a bunch of back and forward and a bunch of research and trying to figure out how to kind of get the sound of a bağlama originally into electric guitar. And so we made a lot of modifications, I suppose, to like the fretboard of the bağlama, and eventually settled on this arrangement, which is, to be fair, not Turkish at all, really. It's definitely inspired by the bağlama, but it's different.
Is that 5th fret on ours doesn't have a microtonal fret?
I don't even know. I need to look at it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So yeah, anyway, so that's kind of where we landed with this fret arrangement, and then this guitar.
What about tuning?
Yeah,
I don't actually know.
Yeah, the tuning. I think I was watching these videos of Tolgahan, who's this guy we've been talking about a lot actually earlier in the green room. He's a Turkish microtonal scholar, and he has all these videos on YouTube of just him shredding on bizarre stringed instruments with weird as hell fretboards and stuff. And he was kind of doing this one piece in this particular tuning, which I think I completely ripped off for these, and it just kind of felt right.
What it says, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, E.
B. Yeah, so it's kind of weird, but it's sort of, once you play it and feel it, it's fairly intuitive kind of tuning. But anyway, so we kind of went from there, and then this guitar sat around for 18 months, kicking around. We would play it, mess around with it. We would take it on tour, and it was in the bus in the green room. We'd fiddle around with it and get confused and scared by it all the time. Eventually, we just thought, let's make an album out of this thing. It's cool. And so, yeah, we modified a bunch of other very, very, very cheap guitars.
Very cheap.
They were like $100 guitars from Swap Shop in Carlton. And the bass was called a Gizzard.
It gives.
Indian model, I believe.
Yeah.
Actually very sick.
It was cool.
Super out of tune always, no matter how well.
I got like a telly, and like I remember our first gig we played some like Rattlesnake or something. I think it was at Laneway. It literally the guitar just like was falling apart, like the bridge like fell off. Like yeah, like the just like the not like the pots just like falling off one by one, like tuning pegs, like without even it was sick.
Yeah, we built these guitars just in order to record, I suppose, and just to have instruments so we could play with each other and jam and write. And so we could all, I guess, speak the same language and be on that kind of microtonal thing. So yeah, and that became Flying Microtonal Banana, the album.
And so it seems like it did unlock like a new period of creativity, perhaps, in the band. And with the second two albums, KG and LW, were they more a product of lockdown? Would you have made those if lockdown hadn't happened, do you think?
Yeah. I think we were pretty primed before like we knew what COVID was going to be to like get in and start getting to work on those.
We'd made a start actually on those, and I think we had always, after we did Fly Microtonal Banana, I mean that was a super creative spark. Like doing that was honestly one of the funnest recording experiences I've ever had. It was just so streamlined and easy, and like everything was just happening. It was just felt so right.
It's exciting because like just the nature of the microtonal fret, like the extra or the in-between fret or whatever, just adds like this colour to something that you kind of wouldn't think twice about if you were to just play or whatever. Like you know, it's too kind of like stock or whatever, you know. And then it's like when that's thrown in the mix, it just kind of like adds this extra level of kind of like just colour to it that just you can kind of latch onto and like subvert stuff that you might kind of not be able to do or something. And it's just like a real inspiring kind of thing. Just
we kind of felt like really simple melodies were brand new again.
Yeah, exactly what.
And that was like a really exciting kind of time, and I think that was really specific to FMB. Because when we kind of went back to KG and LW, I think we knew after that we wanted to dive back into this world. And what was it, 4 years or something went by, and we made a few records in that time, and it was like, okay, now it's time to dive in. But unfortunately we lost that feeling of everything simple is new again. So with those two, we kind of complicated them on purpose.
Complicated them, and also like just the nature of all being separated, like emailing, like drum stems and guitar like opened up to each other. Just has, I mean, the nature of that's kind of cool, like as well, because it's just a product of its time. But it's definitely like an energy that was on FMB that isn't on those couple of albums, just because of the nature of how we made it.
We'd never make that record like that again, I don't think. In a good way.
I mean, it might be interesting to talk about a couple of songs individually, because even within that, I mean, to my ears, there are some songs that have that resonance of Turkish music, and then others where they don't so much, like the song Honey, it's sort of more used in a bluesy way, perhaps, some of the microtonal inflections. Was that an impetus to try and find something, a different colour or a different way of using those instruments that wasn't always tied to the Turkish?
I think with KG and LW, I don't know if we ever had a conversation about that, or we ever specifically thought about that, but I think we naturally were attracted to doing things that felt different on purpose. And with FMB, it felt so that. It's got a sound and a texture and a colour, and we wanted it to feel like it was of the world. So I think with KG and LW, there are a few songs that feel related to FMB, and that was cool. But mostly it was like, let's go to a new place like this. There's kind of more of a rainbow.
I think also it's important for us when we do it, is that because obviously we're kind of, utilising like, centuries old Turkish and like Indian and like Middle Eastern kind of like, technique, or with the microtonal thing, we were quite conscious of just not being derivative and making like music that was just that, you know what I mean? Like we kind of wanted to just use it as a mechanism to like make a Gizzard album, and instead of just making like Turkish sounding music, which once again is like a really cool kind of to help you like write and stuff. But yeah, I think we're like sometimes say I'd have a demo or something like that and send it to Stu, and he'd be like, oh, you know, it's a bit too that like thing, like let's like pull it back and like make it sound like Neil Young or something or whatever, you know. It's like, and then that, but then that's just like more interesting as well, you know. So yeah, I guess the answer to your question is
one of the ones that one of my favourites is Plura, a song where I know you sing together, and you know, in Turkish music, you often have unusual groupings of time signatures. But you've got this, you know, the combination of the vocal in 2 and then this underlying 7+8, and I know you use this in several songs where those polyrhythms play out over time.
Yeah.
Interested to know just how that song came about and was written.
I guess like, yeah, that kind of was mine. Stu and I wrote the kind of lyrics together and sang it together. But yeah, the guitar stuff was me. I don't know, I feel like maybe the demo of like the kind of the riff, the big riff in it, that had been kicking around for a while. I think like I may have just kind of written that off the back of like Polygon Dwemerland, which was like deeply kind of polyrhythmic exploration stuff, so that's kind of why it has that strong feel. But yeah, I don't know, it's just like, yeah, it felt like, I do love that song as well. It's just like, it feels, if we're talking about riffs, it's like, I'm proud of that one, you know. So I don't know.
And I think that was one of the ones that did bridge the 2 albums together, hey? Because it was one that already existed before we started making KG and LW. And I remember Joe bringing in this riff, and you and I and Cavs, our drummer, sort of piecing together this demo for it, and it just like, it was one of those songs that did sit around and encourage us to kind of go back to this world, because we're like, that's got to be a thing. Yeah.
Also, maybe what actually kind of didn't aid it is that I'm pretty sure like what you hear on the album is the drum track from the demo. So that's like actually me and Cavs and Stu in a room together, but it existed before like COVID. I think we did it, 2019 or something. So that's why it feels so live. Because it was.
There are a few songs on that album that are like that, and we used tracks that we thought were going to be demos because we actually couldn't get together in a room, and so those recordings that we had where you can hear people interacting with each other in real time felt gold and like really important. Yeah.
There's also some incorporation of acoustic guitar stuff, steel string guitar also on Butterfly 3000, where did some of that come from demos and then was incorporated left as part of the track, or I'm actually interested in the bringing together of the electric and acoustic sounds and how you see that and worked on that.
With Butterfly 3000, we didn't demo anything for that particular record, so anything that was on there was recorded for it. There was a lot of acoustic on that. I think there's very little electric actually, but there's acoustic and kind of like modular synths and stuff. It was a kind of weird combo on that one.
I think that was like, did that come out before KGLW?
It came out after it. Yeah, it came out. That was the one after it.
Yeah, I think, like having done those 2 albums, the KGLW, it was like another, as a band, like record with like guitars and stuff in lockdown. I think it was like, it made sense to do something like Butterfly, which was like an in-the-box kind of, electronic kind of thing, which was a lot more suited to just that. But yeah, that was sick.
With KGLW, we wanted to make it sound like a band, even though we couldn't be a band, and that felt like a challenge, and maybe like a mix challenge or a recording challenge or something like that. And we were literally sending recordings to each other over Dropbox or whatever, and that was fun, about annoying as well and fun. and then we finished that, and then the next one we did with Butterfly 3000, we actually kind of had the opposite approach. It was like, let's try and make it sound like a band. This is like a record from the future. So we lent into it.
And Intersport is another track which to talk also in the background in dance music, combining it with the guitar riff and which has the microtonal inflection. It actually works really well on a regular guitar too.
Yeah.
That's a great track.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, that was, once again, the intention of just like, I'm going to try and make a Turkish house track from that, that could have sounded like it was from, 1970 or something. I don't know how music didn't exist, but that was just an experiment, like kind of just like everything we do is, and then it just kind of just materializes. We're actually trying. We haven't never played that live, just because it's just has kind of never really worked on the instrumentational level, like how we play live. But we're trying to get it together for the next little bit, which will be potentially embarrassing. I'm gonna go hard.
Well, just checking how we're going for time because I want to leave a little bit of time for questions. I am interested in, you seem to, I know you're very prolific and that's talked about a lot, but it seems to me that's facilitated by your ability to do so much recording yourselves, and I guess work from home in a lot of cases. How essential do you see those skills for sort of young musicians coming up these days?
You mean like autonomy surrounding just kind of creation, recording?
To be able to record yourself at home and demo tracks, but also even to record albums like you have.
I suppose it depends on what your intent is out of this whole thing. And I think for us, we kind of went into this particular band, which was none of our first band, with the idea to do something experimental and to make a lot of records and to play a lot of shows and to just never know what we were going to do next. And that was kind of if there was a mission statement, which there certainly wasn't, it was that. So it was essential, obviously, to be able to learn how to record and make records ourselves because it would be way too expensive to do them properly. So, it kind of came from that. And it just depends what you want out of it, and maybe, we didn't sit around and have heaps of discussions about what do we want out of this, but I think maybe we had one or two, and it was, they kind of went something like that, and they're probably pretty important to just decide as a unit, if you're in a group or even if you're a solo artist, just decide what you want to get out of it and just kind of focus on that.
Yeah, I think it's just very powerful to have the ability to kind of do whatever it is that you want to do, be it record or get together a song or put it out or whatever. It's really important to just be able to do it, and if it's just once again it's like we're here because we just kind of it was attrition. Like we kind of started out the recordings were rubbish, like all this stuff, but it just incrementally gets better. I think one of the things we attribute to our kind of being so prolific, and Stu's kind of Stu's disposition is just to kind of like constantly just create stuff and not be too pedantic or be caught up. I just think it's just like this is the one and only song we'll write because in the end it's just a song. So it's just kind of keeping on moving forward and not being too precious about things is really kind of like a key tenet of our process, which is sweet. And then that coupled with just being able to do it ourselves, I think it's just kind of cocktail.
And you've kept you've stayed together, they've got a very strong core, and I guess does this focus shift sometimes from more group-oriented writing and creation to then other times more individual creation and writing?
To be honest, I feel like one of the things about Gizzard that I'm most proud of is that it's actually become more collaborative as we've gone on, and that's been a really awesome, beautiful thing. I think in the earlier days, it was every song was always helmed by a single person, and these days, maybe not every song, but many of our songs come out of spontaneous group creation, and that is just the most beautiful thing, and it's very awesome and vulnerable and rare, I think, just in life to be able to do something like that with other humans. So I'm always chasing that.
Well, it's probably a good time to throw it. We do have a mic in the audience if anyone's got any questions. Stu and Joey, do you have the mic? We've got a question. We're down here. Great, let's go.
Hello.
It's kind of two-pronged. So the first part is I'm really curious how you write your set list. playing live, and would you ever consider doing a 12-night residency where you do 2 albums a night and play them all back to back all the way through?
Don't tempt him.
On the set lists, I have a spreadsheet. It's very, very, very sick. I love that stuff so much. But yeah, it's literally a spreadsheet. It has every song that we know how to play on it, or at least we've played in recent memory. And then I've got it ordered by album and also by what guitars we all play, or what kind of keyboard or whatever setup Ambrose has, so we don't just swap around too much, and also duration. And it's all color coded. And so I kind of piece it together, and I try to piece it together so we don't have to swap guitars too much. And it just, I don't know, it's like, it's some kind of like weird, deep, satisfactional, like, core thing. I fucking love it heaps for some reason. But yeah, we've been doing like unique set lists every night, and it's like our Sudoku, you know. Keep the brain.
Especially because we won't play songs, which probably been a post-COVID thing. We won't play a song. We won't repeat a song from the same city that we've played, like say since the last time we were there. So it's like, you know, Splendor last week or whatever, like Stu. It's just like we're close to Brisbane, and it's like, now we played like Gila Monster in Brisbane, like, you know, earlier this year. So it's like, we're not playing tonight, kind of thing. And I'm like, sorry, we're not in Brisbane. Which is cool, and it's like, sometimes it's frustrating because you feel like you're omitting some of the stuff that you're like, is going to just work really well, but then it's like, I think ultimately it's really rewarding for us and for the audience, hopefully. Yeah.
12-night thing maybe, but also maybe not.
That's because there's 24 albums.
Yeah. That would actually be so hard. Like, that would be so hard. That would be the hardest thing we've ever done if we did that. That would be crazy.
So we'll do it.
Shut up. Yeah.
Questions here?
Thanks. I'm interested in the collaboration side of things. So you mentioned that it's getting better. That's one of the really beautiful things. I guess, life experience has shown me that collaboration is one of the most challenging things, but often one of the most rewarding things. Like, you kind of get more, better, faster, bigger, moving as a group when those conditions are right and when you can maintain them. It's like a marriage or something, the odds are against you that it's going to last, or that sort of thing, but sometimes they work out. I'm wondering, from that perspective of it getting better, if there's anything that stands out about why or how that's happened, and also then like where you're at kind of now, and do you need, is that something you work on or think about, like its own thing, like the collaboration aspect, or is it just kind of hands off and keeps going?
Good question. I think we definitely think about it.
Yeah.
We'll kind of, maybe because the albums are so varied, it's like for the Petro album that just came out, like the real metally one, like it's kind of hard for Ambrose to kind of play on that, like in the time, like when it's being created, because just due to the plays harmonica. So if that's how it is for that album, it's like we'll really focus on like not having creating an album that's just like deeply collaborative and like kind of set parameters that like facilitate that. And I think it is, I think it's like it is a spectrum, and it's like kind of always getting better, Yeah.
I think the marriage thing is on point, because I think you have to, when you're in a group, and especially when you're doing something as vulnerable as this, you have to respect it like super deeply. You have to have this like really, really deep respect and love for each other, and really care what everyone else thinks and what they want out of it and stuff. And that's got to be real, and I think you got to keep the egos in check and really try to find a place where everyone's getting what they want out of it, which is not always easy, but when it works, it's so rewarding that it's all worth it. So yeah, we've been trying to do that more and more, really, as the years have gone by.
It might get more challenging as you get older and different life
For sure.
trajectories emerge.
Yeah, I mean, it's so good at the moment. I think just coming out of the pandemic and it's just been amazing on a collaborative level. And like, hopefully it's just kind of stays like that. But yeah, you're right, like life can just do its thing. But I feel like we do want to kind of it's such an exciting band to be in, really. Like, it feels kind of more exciting as time goes on, which is, like, I think, just a good indicator of that. And I think it's like, yeah, I think it's because we kind of try and honour those kind of core ideals, you know, which kind of really help.
Hi. I really love hearing about like the recording and production process, especially with how it grows throughout all of your albums. I was just curious to see, are there any like production techniques that you're really loving at the moment, or new things? And I also was curious, do you still do the iPhone thing? Yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks. The iPhone thing, I think what you're talking about is, correct me if I'm wrong, is we have like used iPhone recordings in on our albums like quite a lot of times.
Yeah.
It's just so dumb. Yeah, that's cool as well. I think it's just, we've always just come from a like DIY kind of world. We don't own expensive stuff, like, especially recording stuff. Personally, with the sound that we're trying to get, I kind of don't believe in expensive stuff. I kind of believe in stuff that just doesn't break. But sometimes I also believe in stuff that does break on purpose, and that kind of sounds cool. But I mean, iPhones, like, the amount of tech that's in your pocket is insane.
Something about like whatever the compression of like the voice memo thing can do to just like a acoustic guitar, just like makes it just kind of poke out in an extra little way. But
You actually forgot about that. We might have to do that a little more.
I heard about it from, you did an interview with, I think it might have been KXP, about the production of Honey. And, listening to that and how you guys like produce music is something that I find really, really interesting. So yeah, is there any other like techniques that you found that you wouldn't go to, that you sort of have discovered while producing all your records?
With like Gizzard, I think the recording process has always been part of the creative process. It's never been a separate thing, you know. It's never been a thing where you write an album and then you go get someone else to record it. It's always been you write while you're recording, and you kind of it's all one big creative juice. So I think with every record, it's been something that's been important to set a framework around. This is the way we're going to record this one. This is the nature in which this one's going to come together. So.
no kind of like secret like technique or thing. If anything,
No.
it's like it's a lack there of like, you know, it's just like get it recorded, and you know, as long as you're kind of capturing some vibe that you're excited about, it's simple as that.
Some of the stuff we do is like so wrong. It's like crazy. We've mixed so many of our albums in AirPods, and people were just like, "Yeah, you mix your albums in AirPods, you idiot." I don't know. It sounds pretty good to me. It's really good. It's like you plug in your guitar with the wrong cable into like the bass amp. Like, whatever. It sounds good to you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, if it sounds good, if it suits the song. But the AirPods thing's good. Like it's like, you know, get a song to like a mix to, you know, as good as you think you can get it, like on whatever setup you have, and then for that last 5%, do it in the AirPods. It's like, it literally will make it sound good, because it's also just like it also is a standard of how it'll be consumed. So it's like if it sounds good on that, then it's sweet, you're good. That kind of whatever sculpting thing is like pretty ubiquitous, you know. So AirPods.
The main thing on that tip, the main thing for me has actually always been, what do you need to do to just focus on the creative? The other stuff is it's just in the way. Everything else is just in the way. Like whatever you need to do to just work on being creative, and that's sometimes hard. Like as a musician, you gotta practice. You gotta change your strings and your guitar. You gotta do all this stuff which is just like in the way, and like just find the quickest path to just make something. Has just been, I guess, the philosophy of the Gizzard most of the time.
Cool, thank you.
I just got the mic. Sorry. Speaker. Hey guys. So obviously you guys are like super prolific and constantly release stuff. Do you guys ever come into like a writer's block? And if so, like how do you get out of that? And Stu, how has fatherhood changed how you write music?
Writer's block. I think like writer's block is like a kind of a form of like anxiety, pressure about maybe comparing what you've done to maybe past work or something like that. Other people or something, which is obviously a very easy thing to do that we all do constantly. So I think, you know, maybe calling it what it is might be helpful on that tip, and just work through whatever the kind of like anxious block is that you're having. I mean, I kind of personally believe that all human beings are just naturally creative people. Like it's kind of in our nature to just make stuff all the time. So we do cook, you know, you do anything conversational is creative. I think we just naturally, you know who we are.
I think as well, like, in just what we're talking about today, but it's like just creating kind of like, maybe it's a limitation, or maybe it's like a concept, or maybe it's a microtonal phrase, or maybe it's like a technique or whatever. And if you have writer's block, like just invent something that is different or a bit of a challenge, and like work to that, or like try and learn it, or whatever it is, and then you will pretty much 100% overcome it. Like it's just, you just kind of have to work, if you're working towards something, I think, or be inspired, do something differently, you know. I think that's kind of a good antidote.
Fatherhood's fab, thanks. It's awesome. I love it so much. It's like just giving me so much purpose and direction. I love my daughter heaps. We're about to both have kids as well. I'll come out in a second. First. Woo!
It means that we'll actually have a break. Like because like I went a little bit before Stu, but I was like really scared that like, you know, obviously I could take as much time off from them as I wanted, but I just knew that it was ticking way behind. But now Stu's having another kid, it'll just be like, it'll break, but we'll see how we do.
Congratulations. So we've got time for a couple more questions, I guess, behind.
Hello.
Hello.
I play electric ukulele, and I'd love to experiment with a microtonal electric ukulele. So I don't know.
Fresh.
Hey, yeah, I don't know if you know anything about microtonal ukuleles.
I've never seen one, but you should definitely do one. The only problem that I could potentially foresee is how small the frets might be. But I mean, definitely just do it. That would be sick. You could probably even just
Skinny your fingers.
Yeah, you might have to sharpen your fingertips. But I'm sure it might have never been done.
Yeah, well, I've seen. There's only I can count on one hand the number of people I've seen online with acoustic ones that are microtonal, but I can't find any electric ones.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it though.
Just take a photo. Tell guitar guy, tech to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
No, that would be super cool though. Send us the recording.
Will do.
I'm keen to know how well your course prepared you for the business, working within the business, preparing, I guess, the band to be successful within the business, and what's the most common advice you give to young bands from a business perspective?
From a business perspective, honestly, on the business side of things, it's been important to me to not get ripped off by anybody, and know your worth. Work hard with other people if you can, if you have the time, the resources, support. But apart from that, I think mostly with us, it's just been about staying in our lane or in our niche, doing our thing, not worrying too much about what other people are doing, what other people think, just keeping on our road, hoping for the best. I couch surfed for 5 years, I didn't make any money. Like, I just slept on anyone's couch. I had a Ford Falcon wagon and a Fender Strat, and that was it. And it just worked.
Yeah, I think the course thing, like what it prepared obviously that we got so much like priceless value from our course because we all met each other. But it's like, we did music industry, so it's like they're kind of, it was like not peddling like a kind of agenda, but it was just kind of like, it was just about the structure that was in place. That was, the music industry and what was the sum of its parts. And I think like, a lot of that stuff we didn't identify with, and I think it was just like that, but like having the knowledge about how maybe that structurally works kind of helped us be like, okay, well, how do we like kind of obliterate that? And like, that's kind of, where, our, like, a lot of the decisions that we've kind of, our independence and our like, early on when we started putting like the first year we put 2 albums out or something, the label was like, no, that can't happen, like, what are you doing? And it's just like that, and so I was like, well, yes it can. And it's just kind of just staying true to that. So, yeah.
Doing the music course was cool, music industry was really cool, and like Joe said, we met each other, and we did learn a lot, totally. But a lot of it kind of felt like, this is other people's stuff, like this, I don't know, I feel like we had this kind of idea about what we should do with our lives, which was a different thing. And I think we just managed to stick to it, but it wasn't that easy. And we did it kind of for nothing for a long time. And most of us kind of held down jobs and stuff too. So I suppose you got to kind of be prepared to take some major sacrifices and then honestly probably still lose as well. Like, I don't know, it's pretty cutthroat at it, but it's good fun as well.
Yeah, so if you like it, just
exactly.
As simple as that.
So throughout your albums, and songs, you have quite a bit of motifs and reoccurring sort of phrases that repeat. I was wondering, do they get included sort of as planned? Are they spontaneous, or what? In a way, is the Giz verse real?
I'm going to skirt around this question. Usually, if we're talking recorded or actually performance, really, it's usually spontaneous.
And sometimes we'll be just like, working on the song, we're trying to finish the song off, and like maybe there's an element that's missing or something, and then to be like, oh, what if we did that from that song there, and it just works, recontextualized, and that's when it's like, and his verse is real.
I think that came from film music too. Like, that's not an uncommon musical thing to do, as in attaching a theme to a character or something like that.
Well, thanks so much, Stu and Joe, for being here, being so generous with your time and your insights, and thank you all for coming along as well.